Now, delighted to be joined by Bradford City defender and Limerick native Paudie O'Connor. Paudie, we're speaking here on Saturday afternoon, and fortunately for you and your Bradford City teammates and the rest of League Two, it appears League Two has fallen victim to COVID-19, and you won't be finishing out the season.
No, unfortunately not. I suppose the kind of news filtered through to an officials then kind of last week through the usual WhatsApps and Zoom calls. We were kind of told us it's kind of 95% waiting to be kind of ratified by the clubs in League Two, and as far as we're aware, League One as well. That due to kind of financial difficulties that would kind of come with going back playing and clubs kind of coming off the furlough payment and whatnot, that it just wasn't kind of viable for a lot of the clubs down around us that to kind of continue on. So as you said, we've kind of fallen victim to the COVID virus and whatnot, but I suppose in the grand scheme of things, we can't really complain too much, I don't think.
Yeah, so you mentioned there falling victim to the virus now, and luckily for you, you managed to come back to Ireland. Well, maybe luckily for you, depending on what you're looking at, but you managed to come back. You're spending
Yeah.
time with your family. Before we talk about any football, it's obviously good to spend a bit of time with your family that, well, obviously, given the fact you're living in England, hasn't been afforded to you in the last couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. As you said, I managed to get home on probably one of the last ferries that was kind of going just before the lockdown around Paddy's Day, when we were kind of told to kind of take maybe a week or 10 days off the time, which obviously led to being a lot more. So yeah, myself and a lot of the Irish lads kind of seen it as an opportunity to get home and I suppose spend time with family. I've been away, I think, just over 3 years now, and never really get more than probably 2 to 3 weeks at home, and maybe the off season where you're kind of going away on holidays and whatnot. So to spend kind of this amount of time, and I suppose your kind of class is nearly being off now, so to give the body a rest, and as you said, to spend it with family who I probably haven't been as close in the last few years, it's been kind of a nice silver lining, as you probably say.
Yeah, you mentioned there about kind of feel like you're off now almost, but until when did you start kind of winding down, or when did I had seen you there one day running on the road, but you're obviously going to keep your fitness up anyhow, but you'd obviously
Of
been
course.
reporting back to the club with bits. So what was that program like, and when did that kind of taper off?
Yeah, I suppose as you said, we were kind of given the GPS units as we were leaving on that Monday before Paddy's weekend, and we were obviously along with that thing given programs to kind of tip away with, obviously the thought of coming back maybe within a week or 10 days, or then maybe within the month, when it was pushed back to kind of April 3rd the first time, and it was only until probably maybe last Monday that we were kind of told, look, you've been kind of doing your own work now and with the programs for 6 weeks, which just kind of included different bits of road running. I think most of us would have a bit of a home gym that we were able to use, where there'd be a few weights or whatever. So between that and the road running and a bit of ball work out in the front lawn, it was very much kind of just keep yourself taking over. But yeah, as you said, with the probably season winding down now, it'll be a case of maybe take kind of 2 weeks, 10 days of just maybe a light run, maybe once, twice a week, just to keep the body ticking. And then once we kind of have a start date to go back, you can start kind of building things back up again to get ready for hopefully the new season.
Yeah, the new season hopefully will fall into line as you would expect, but I suppose we'll wait and see on that one. If we can look back
Yeah.
at the season just gone, the 2019-20 season, for yourself, your first full season, well, it didn't end up being a full season, but your first
No.
season as a permanent Bradford player. You played 19 league games out of, I think it's a 39 that you've amassed. Is that in line with your own personal goals, or how does that sit with you, those numbers?
No, I don't think they're kind of as where I would have wanted them. If we were going back this time last year, when I took the decision, maybe a little bit later, to go and sign with Bradford permanently, it would have been with the expectations of playing maybe close to every game in League Two this year. But circumstances kind of changed that. Get injured early on in pre-season, just before the pre-season games kind of started kicking in. I tore my quad and was out for close to 8 weeks, which was obviously not an ideal start. Once kind of as you know, a back four gets settled, it can it can be hard to kind of break in. And yeah, between then and I suppose whenever we finished the early March, it was a case of kind of being in and out with different, whether we go up to 3-5-2 or a 4-3-3. I found myself kind of in and out a lot more than I would have wanted to be. But I suppose it's just kind of dealing with that and kind of playing the kind of cards you dealt with at the time. I tried to stay in as long as I could. But yeah, as you said, probably going back this time last year, I would have preferred maybe to hit the 30 or 35 mark by this stage. But yeah, as you said, got to deal with it.
Yeah, one of the things in League Two and League One, well, in the Championship also, is the fact that there's 46 league games. There's the EFL Cup, the League Cup, the FA Cup, you name it. There's endless amounts of games. So the
Yeah,
rotation is obviously something that's, a factor in that. I know obviously maybe injury and stuff curtailed some of those appearances, but the fact that,
yeah,
if you're playing Saturday, Wednesday for a couple of weeks, and you have three decent centre backs, Anthony O'Connor, I think, is it Everton, Richards, and yourself. I'm not
yeah.
sure who else is in the mix there, but there's naturally going to be rotation no matter how well one individual is playing.
Yeah, that's true. I suppose, which maybe some people don't probably see from the outside. But as you said, if a manager, maybe not even by choice, but he ended up with kind of three of us come the first game of the season last year, and I suppose he probably seen that it was an opportunity for him to kind of to rotate. And as you said, we all kind of got different games. Some of us played in the cup, some of us didn't, and because in League One and League Two we've kind of the extra competition with the leasing.com trophy it was called this year. You've a lot of Saturday Tuesdays before Christmas. You're probably nearly playing every Saturday Tuesday, and then it kind of eases off in the second half of the season. So, as you said, if you get a decent run in any of the cups, you could be talking close to maybe 55, 60 games a season. So rotation is important, but as a player and especially in my position, you'd be looking kind of to hit the higher end of that. So it was always an aim, kind of last year.
Yeah, one definite highlight that I spotted, or well, I'm sure it was easy spot, was your winning goal against Northampton. As poacher's instinct, kind of get the back stick to get the rebound. You went running for the crowd came running for you. That must have been
Yeah.
a real highlight of the season, and I suppose of your career so far anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose that was off the back of me just coming back into the team after my injury to start last year. So we had a few decent results up to that, and at that point in the game, I think we were drawn 1-1. We just equalised after going behind early in the game, and yeah, I found myself, I think, in a second phase of the back post, and yeah, I followed it in and toe poked it home, and yeah, it was. I remember turning to celebrate, and I seen half the cop end coming down on top of me. So yeah, it was a funny old video to look back on, but it was definitely one of the highlights of last season, definitely.
Yeah, one thing people would always say about Limerick is that it's a sporting city. I think it's very hard to nail what the main sport in Limerick is. It kind of goes in cycles. But
Of course.
in Bradford, does it really feel like a football city, if you want to use that expression? You know that football is really, really important to so many people in the place.
Yeah, it's, as a lot of people over would say, it's their religion, it's their mass. Kind of every Saturday, 3 o'clock, you'll have at least 15,000 of them kind of come into Valley Parade, and I think they play a small bit of rugby league with the Bradford Bulls, but definitely the main sport in the city is their football. And yeah, they kind of, you'll see with a lot of our away games this year, they'll sell out their away kind of allocated tickets within maybe an hour or so. So to have that support, and when you're playing maybe lower down the leagues, it does go a long way, definitely.
Yeah, some Irish people who may not be familiar with the lower tiers of English football would say, it's fourth-tier football. But people, if they've seen that video of you celebrating, again, that winning goal, or maybe any other highlights from League Two during the season, the attendances
Yeah.
are quite large. Now, you might tell me closer on the figures, I don't have them to hand, but I mean, it's a well-supported division across the board, really, isn't it?
Yeah, most definitely. To be honest, I probably even fell into that bracket while I was at Leeds, and it was only kind of when I went out on loan to Blackpool and Bradford the year previous to this, and then playing in League Two this year, that I kind of realised that there were some very well supported clubs kind of across the board in League One and League Two, and we ourselves, I think we'd 14,500 season ticket holders, as well as people paying on the gate kind of most weeks. So we were talking for some of the bigger games, it was just under. I know we got 20 odd thousand to the Liverpool preseason game, and even across the board then in the regular season in League Two, you were talking probably for a lot of clubs between 9 and 10,000. So when you kind of look at that back, I know people back home would say, "Oh, League of Ireland isn't a million miles away from the League One and League Two over," but when you're talking them figures, you're probably a little bit off still. So it definitely is a decent level still to be playing at.
Yeah, you've played at higher levels. I suppose a couple of appearances. I think it was 4 appearances in the Championship with Leeds.
Yeah,
You'd half a season then at Blackpool. One man, I suppose, instrumental obviously in getting your loan move to Blackpool, and then subsequently their loan move to Bradford would be your agent, obviously Stephen Hunt.
yeah,
Plenty of people are familiar with him from his time playing with Ireland and in the Premier League with Reading and a couple other clubs. What's he
yeah.
like? I mean, football agents are given extremely bad names by, I don't know, it's the media or by fans or
Of course.
clubs in general.
Yeah.
But what's Stephen like as a whole?
Yeah, he's been very good for me since coming over. It was actually after I signed with Leeds, he kind of got in touch with me. Just as I was kind of settling in, it was a couple of people from back home, along with my dad, that kind of helped get the Leeds kind of move over the line. So he kind of phoned me up and he came down. I remember in the summer after I signed, and we met in the South Court Hotel in Limerick, funnily enough, and had a conversation. And kind of right from the off, you could tell that he was genuine about trying to kind of help my career go in the right direction, and that's all you can kind of ask for. Obviously, it helps when you kind of know someone's has your best interests at heart, and being Irish and all that kind of helps tick the box. And since I've been over, then it's just kind of getting to games, give me feedback. Obviously, him playing at the level he did, you're kind of gonna take his advice on board. And yeah, he's been good in the good times and bad, which can't be said for, I think, a lot of the agents. They'll only be there when you're doing well, and when you're not, or when you're looking for a club, they can go quiet. So I can't say a bad word about him yet, anyways.
And is he good? Is he good to give you actual, like, I mean, I know he didn't play centre half, but I mean, is he good to give you
No.
feedback on to improve your game and how to apply yourself to the absolute peak? I mean, he obviously knows exactly how to do that.
Yeah, well, I think one of the points he makes out is he mightn't be the most talented players, but I think he played in the Premier League for quite a long time, and he's probably over 50 caps for Ireland. So he says that it's all about kind of just maxing your potential, maxing your ability, and getting the best out of yourself come kind of Saturday. So kind of with stuff off the field and nutrition wise and kind of personal training, he's been good with me. And yeah, although he didn't play centre half, I think when you play at that level, you kind of have a general knowledge of most positions and kind of where and what to do. And he's the whole time bringing people to game that would have played my position, and he's good, very good mates with John O'Shea, being kind of the Waterford connection and that. So yeah, there's just been very good tips down through the years.
Yeah, you moved to England. You actually mentioned there your father, I suppose, helped get that deal over the line, and you first would have played an awful lot of under 23s games. Now, it's a bit
Yeah,
of a strange one in that you're moving to England. People automatically are hoping this guy is going to break into the first team, but Leeds are such a massive club. Like people probably younger than us don't realise
no,
how big Leeds are and how desperate they are really to get it back into the Premier League. So must have been a challenging few months. Obviously, you were learning your trade, but if I
yeah,
recall, I was talking to you around the time, and you were kind of mentioning how actually it was beneficial. It was you were improving your game, overall. I think
yeah.
you may have worked with a Spanish coach, if I'm right in saying that,
Yes,
just
Carlos
trying to
Bobran.
really
Yeah,
improve your game, and it wasn't really results orientated. It was trying to get the best out of your potential.
yeah, 100%. And I probably didn't kind of realize that going over either. That probably the level of kind of support base they have in Ireland, and probably across England and Europe even, from kind of years gone by. So you do kind of get that when you walk in the door over there and you see kind of the stuff at the training ground that kind of reminds you of they were playing Champions League semi-finals not too long ago. So yeah, definitely when I first went over, it was all about kind of trying to develop. I obviously had probably it would have been close to 2 years working with Declan Farmer when I first went into Limerick at the 19s level, and then I probably had another 2 years working with Martin Russell. And they, I can't kind of say enough about them, what they kind of done for my game and developing me. But I still think when I went over there, I probably had a year, close to a year's worth of kind of needing to step up to be ready to kind of handle the first team over there, because going from League of Ireland to straight to Championship would probably have been, a big ask, and he might have survived for a little bit, but it probably wouldn't have been much. So yeah, I done a lot of work with Carlos and his number two, Danny Schofield, who played a lot of football in the four leagues. So I felt like I kind of done enough that when Paul Eckenbottom kind of eventually called me up, probably close to maybe 10, 11 months after going over, that I was in a better position to trying to kick on.
Yeah, you played 4 league games. The debut against Sunderland at Ellen Road, obviously a special day. But did those 4 appearances? I mean, you even played against Aston Villa, where I think plenty of people saw that clip of you mixing it with their centre forward. But did those
Yeah.
sort of games give you an appetite to say, I really want to play now first team football, wherever that
Yeah.
may be? And obviously it turned out then during the summer it was Blackpool.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, I've been to over the kind of just after the previous January, so I probably had close to a year of the 23s football. And as I said, that league is all about development. And I come from 2 years of kind of the complete opposite. It was all about winning and surviving with Limerick for most of it of my first year. So the development was kind of nearly secondary, some of it. Whereas obviously that's all about trying to just make you a better player and kind of the attractive football side of it. So then when you go up and you play them a few first team games, and it kind of flips again to all about winning, even though the coaching staff were very good with us and trying to make you better. The end goal obviously is a results based business. So when I kind of came away then at the end of that season, and got the news in the off season that obviously a manager had been kind of let go and they were on the hunt for Marcelo Bielsa, I knew that straight away that it kind of was ringing with me that if I wasn't in his plans, it was going to be a case of going getting that first team football again, which obviously turned out to be.
Yeah, so you go to Blackpool then, and Blackpool, have had well documented trouble between the owner and the fans. But
Yeah.
if you can put that to a side, how was it like being thrown in? Not at the deep end, but I mean, you make your debut. I think it was 0-0 the first day of the season, and then Gary
Yeah.
Boyer is gone. So the guy who brought you into the club is gone. Did you feel like you're back to square one, and how did you apply yourself then over the next couple of months, really?
Yeah, it was a bit of a strange one, I won't lie. But I suppose it kind of reminded me in ways of when I first went into Limerick, because at Blackpool I was living in the hotel, but you kind of wash your own gear, and it's kind of a very small club. We'll say staff wise and infrastructure and all that, it wouldn't have the fancy training grounds that you see at other clubs. So it makes you have a close knit dressing room, which I probably still to this time, along with the first Limerick one, it was probably one of the best dressing rooms I've been in at Blackpool. You had very good senior pros there with Jay Spearin and Mark Howard in goals and Curtis Stilts, and they kind of led us. So it was kind of a lot of players based instead of kind of coach based sessions. So I really enjoyed that, and I found that kind of brought me on a good bit, and it kind of makes you grow up quick as well over there, that you kind of have to fend for yourself. And yeah, obviously with Gary leaving after the first game of the season, he was one of the main reasons I went there for a start, because everyone who I'd spoke to before that, who had worked with him at Blackburn and a couple at Blackpool, I had kind of only good things to say about him. And he's obviously a previous academy director, so he kind of has a good way with young players, and he kind of likes bringing them through. But obviously he kind of had his differences with the board at Blackpool, and it kind of came to a head after that first game. So we ended up having Terry McPhillips, his number two, take over for the rest of the season. And obviously being a young lad, I was kind of had to bide my time, and I think I racked up, it was probably close to 20 games before Christmas, but I just felt like that I needed a change in January to kind of come back and kind of play somewhere else. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed my time, and obviously we had the 2 games against Arsenal in the Cup, so it was obviously a highlight.
Yeah, you've beat me to the next question. Terry puts you in at the Emirates, I mean, like I'm sure plenty of evenings, especially when Arsenal were first moved to the Emirates, knocking around the Champions League quarterfinals and semi-finals. You obviously used to sit at home watching them as a child. Now we actually get to
Yeah.
play there. I mean, first of all, forgetting the game. I mean, that arena alone, walking out there, what's that like? I mean, it must be, worlds apart from most other stadiums you've ever played in.
Yeah, most definitely. It's still probably by some way one of the best stadium I've played in. But I think it was kind of a weird feeling. A lot of people say, Jesus, you must have been fair nervous going out there. But like we were going, it's kind of cliche, but we were going down there with obviously nothing to lose. They're going up playing against Arsenal, who are one of the best teams in England. And as you said, coming down, I remember going out for a warm up, and there was a few players kind of nearly laughing like at the size of the stadium. We'd obviously had a few players coming from non-league. There was a couple of us younger ones playing that game, so it was nearly a novelty for some lads. And obviously then you had the likes of kind of Jay Spearing and Mark Howard, who had played kind of nearly at that level, or they'd played in stadiums obviously kind of like that before. So no, it was an unbelievable evening. We done quite well. I thought we kind of had two kind of low blocks of four, and we just kind of sat in and tried to soak the pressure. Obviously, we were disappointed to concede the goal before half time, but I felt like we stayed in the game, and obviously we got back into it, and it could have maybe turned out different if we kept the level on the pitch before the end of the night.
Yeah, if I remember the game, I remember watching it here, and like as you said, there are two banks of four. You really starved of possession, but you've got an awful lot of chances from set pieces, and then obviously I think you went very close with one a couple of minutes before actually scoring.
Yeah,
So now maybe you fully didn't get to enjoy that moment for the fact that you were still chasing the game. I mean, your gut instinct would probably have been to wheel away to the corner, but your actual reaction was probably the best one. Is that, well, actually we're 2-1 down here. There's actually a chance we can force penalties out of this. So
yeah.
it's a strange moment, but it's obviously a fantastic moment to score against someone like Petr Cech and Arsenal.
Yeah, definitely. One of my good mates as well, Jordan Thompson, who I was living with for the 6 months, was the one that crossed it in. So we obviously kind of had a smile. Maybe the next day at the fact that we were able to combine to put one past them. But yeah, I remember getting one just before that. They kind of went zonal on the night. I'm not sure did they probably do much video on us, but we were actually quite a big team, and we were, as you said, a bit of a threat from set pieces. So I got my head on one before that, and it came back off the crossbar. So I said I'd just peel around the back for the second one, and obviously, luckily enough, it came to me. But yeah, I know your natural reaction would be to wheel away and celebrate in front of the Blackpool supporters. But I think we all felt at that stage that we were probably kind of had a foot in the game, and we might have been able to push on and get that equaliser to bring it penalties, but it wasn't to be.
Yeah, a disappointing moment then only a few minutes later when you actually get sent off. Now,
Yeah,
some people locally probably have this perception that, I wouldn't say you're a dirty player, but you do love a tackle. But I mean, it was also kind of something that we're not used to seeing from when you came into Limerick first team between Blackpool and
yeah.
everything else. You're not rash with tackles, but that was a particularly rash one, and obviously you paid the price for it.
Yeah, I suppose locally it would probably stem back to the GA days, when you kind of obviously have to look after yourself a bit more, which wouldn't be too much of a problem. But yeah, no, on the pitch, I try and play obviously hard but fair. I think that kind of shows. I don't, in professional football, I don't have too many send-ins off. So yeah, that one was, I think it was tired legs, tired mind, kind of a combination of both. Going into we'd obviously given a lot of energy to kind of contain Arsenal for probably, I don't know what it was, 85 minutes. And as I seen Aubameyang come on as a substitution, me and the centre half kind of had a laugh at each other when goes on off. So yeah, the ball came out, he spinned it around the corner, and I said that I'd try and stick out a leg, and unfortunately I got him more than any of the ball. So yeah, it was one of them things. It was just mistimed more than anything, but definitely more tired mind than anything.
Yeah, if we can rewind. So, I mean, your time at Limerick, the 2015 season is your first season, in the first team. I'm sure you've been in and around it anyway, between
Yeah,
the 19s. But you actually concede on your league debut against Bohemians in Jackman Park. You concede from a corner in the first minute. I mean, what's going through your head there? I think you're only 17, like, but what are you
Yeah,
saying to yourself that, wow, I mean, at the deep end here, how do you react to that?
I think that was my first thought. I can't remember for sure, but I think it could have been Denny Corcoran, or it was a big striker I was playing against that day. I'm not too sure who it was in the end, but I remember he was unbelievable in the air. And obviously, up until that point, I would have fancied myself coming through the 19s to be quite strong in the air, and I never would have had too much of a problem in any of the games, kind of, winning your headers and all that. I remember that time, I probably for the first 30, 35 minutes, he absolutely bullied me. You know what I mean? Every single goal kick out, every probably cross that came into the box, I was just kind of getting bodied, and I knew quite quickly that I'd have to kind of sharpen up, and you kind of have to be at it. And as you said, we went behind after probably a minute or two, and I think we lost it 3-0 in the end, and it was kind of a wake up moment then from then on. And yeah, it was obviously a disappointing season in the end, but for my first in senior football, it was a big learning curve, and I definitely learned a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say that it was must have been a genuine learning curve that season. I mean, going 21 games, if you played the majority of them without getting a win, but
Yeah,
eventually things turned. Now, you didn't play an awful lot down the stretch, but I mean, your season, in my memory, in my opinion, kind of swings in a space of a few days. You play, if I'm not mistaken, Cork City on the Friday. You scored a winner, your first senior goal. Obviously, a great
yeah,
moment. I was actually behind the goals, along with a couple
yeah,
other
yeah,
Limerick fans, a couple other 100 Limerick fans. But beyond that, then I think on the Monday night, Martin Russell goes with the same team. Obviously, legs are a bit tired. I think you play Longford at home, and
yeah,
you're 3-2 up. You make a mistake. You give away a free
yeah,
kick, which Stephen Rice nods into the back of the net. I mean, I don't want to dress this up nicely, but it's obviously it's actually one of your last involvements of the season. You end up on the bench for the last few games, so
yeah.
that must be something that you really learn from. And obviously a frustrating moment too, to drop the 2 points, but it kind of in essence it cost you your place for the last number of games.
Yeah, that was kind of it. Obviously, up until then, I think it was just myself, Robbie Williams, and Tony Whitehead, because I think Aidan Price had kind of nearly wound up by that stage. So it was kind of just between the three of us, and I know I played, as you said, pretty much a lot of the games, without I don't think any break. And as you said, it came to Friday, Monday. We'd probably had a big shift down in Cork, and we came to the Markets Field, I remember, on the Monday, and yeah, definitely didn't have my best game, and obviously ended up kind of conceding a free kick for the third goal. And I kind of knew in my head coming back into the training on Tuesday that I could be in trouble. And as you said, I think it was we'd signed Patrick and Yuka by that stage, and I think he was back, so I ended up having to play a secondary role kind of for the rest of the season. But yeah, at the same time, I kind of look back and say that I was able to probably learn from that situation, and try and not let it happen again, kind of job.
Yeah, the season as a whole, I mean, forgetting the fact that you get relegated, I mean, that's obviously the end result of the season.
Yeah,
But to play so many games at that age, I mean, we often see wingers and attacking players get that many games. But as a centre half, I mean, you're probably lucky in the fact that the way the Limerick squad is made up, it was such a young team that, well, Martin had to trust you, and obviously then you hope to repay him as much as you could. But like, to get that amount of games at a Premier Division level like that at that age, you must really been happy with that.
yeah. Well, I suppose when I did get taken out of the team, and I probably was feeling sorry for myself for a few days. Like, I remember my father just phoning me and kind of saying, "Look, go back maybe 12 months. When you were finishing the League of Ireland season, would you have thought that you'd played probably 24 or whatever it was, 25 games in the League of Ireland and in the Premier Division?" And I probably would have said no. So you kind of have to look at it as positive as well. I kind of build on that for the following season, when I was probably a year older, a year stronger, and obviously definitely a year wiser. So that it definitely stood to me no matter what way you look at it. And I'd like to think that I was able to repay kind of Martin's faith in me the following year, when we were able to kind of bounce back with the promotion.
Yeah, another thing with the club, obviously things haven't worked out for 2020. I did see you recently encouraging the Blue Army, and I think you were sharing their fundraiser basically you personally obviously would as a fan will say would love to see there be football back in it. It's an awful shame, isn't it, that for whatever reason, there's no finger pointing here, but I mean, for whatever reason, there is no football in Limerick in 2020,
Yeah,
and we're kind of hoping and wishing that there will be in sooner rather than later.
yeah. I think it's obviously between the two of us as well documented the troubles that's been there for a good few years now. Even going back to when I was playing, but I think it all came to a head at the end of last year, and it's obviously disappointing for going into this season with no Limerick representation in either league for the first time in a long, long while. So yeah, I've seen the lads obviously trying to start something up and get the ball rolling for some sort of senior representation, which I think is important because as a young lad kind of coming up through obviously the different kind of leagues and representing the Desmond League and then the emerging talent programs in the North Munster with the FAI, and then obviously signing with Limerick at 16. There was a clear kind of pathway there for me, which was always kind of spoken about going back to when I first kind of started playing with the Kennedy Cup squad when I was probably 11 or 12. You could see the steps there at that age to try and get to the top in Ireland, whereas now just probably young lads looking at once you get to 15, 16, just probably no next level unless you want to travel to Cork or to Galway or wherever else. So it's definitely important to have something to aim for and a stepping stone for people within the city.
Yeah, your brother Tomas played, I'm not sure the exact number, but he played a decent amount of games last season. He played a handful in the Premier the season before. Probably a bit of a benefit of the fact that the squad has had to be so young. But I mean, it was difficult for him and players of his age to be, they were thrown into the deep end in the Premier Division and then obviously even in the First
Yeah.
Division, very difficult. But, a lot of those players handled themselves quite well. I know you wouldn't have seen the games, but I mean, there was positive reviews for players like Tomas and many others.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of my point. Kind of spoken for there. The fact that there's the likes of Tomas and I know I think Carl O'Sullivan is gone up north, and there's Will Fitzgerald and there's other young lads like that as well. That kind of have either probably they've had to revert to junior soccer within the city if they can't kind of afford to travel with college or work or whatever, or else they'll have to travel to the different League of Ireland clubs. So what you'll see happening is that you'll have Limerick lads playing across the League of Ireland when they could easily be playing for their hometown club if they were there. So yeah, they've all kind of done well for themselves last year, and it's all about trying to make a name and kind of get your stats up with games and performances. So fair play to them.
Yeah, if we can turn it back very lightly now towards when you're growing up, right? Personally, I obviously know your house. You're only up the road from me here, but
Of course.
your front area there, where I actually remember going past many a time when I was maybe in my mid-teens. You're obviously a bit younger than me, and yourself and some of your friends kicking 7 shades of what out of each other in that garden. I mean, is that somewhere where you actually genuinely honed your skills and tackling and ball control, everything like that? It's something that could be underrated in your development.
Yeah, I think my mum and dad obviously in the last kind of 6 or 7 weeks have been bringing back up the different stories from that field. All right, when I'd say I was probably 12 or 13. I'm gonna say my dad for one of my birthday presents he brought me back to Aladdin Rathkeel, and we got 2 full-size soccer goals made up. So I thought it was the best day ever, and I got one of my pals then to kind of cut a pitch into the field that we have beside the house, and we kind of created as you said, a mini soccer pitch for ourselves and the 7 or 8 lads that are living around that I'm still close with. We used to come up and we could have 4 or 5 hour soccer games that you kind of, as you said, have to look after yourself, or you could find yourself with an ankle hanging off. So yeah, definitely I would kind of say that it toughened you up quick, and you kind of learned how to deal with everything. And one of my good friends always says that it was his deliveries that made me learn how to hit a ball properly.
Did you call your own fouls in it, or what way did it work?
Yeah, there wasn't. It was self policed, but there wasn't much policing at all. So I remember TJ still tells about the hundreds of times my younger brother Tomas ended up crying and crying in home because he got a bad doing. But yeah, it was all part of growing up.
Yeah, final thing I wanted to ask you, we were talking about it before we started there, is behind closed doors football. Obviously, you watch a fair
Yeah,
amount of football on TV when things are normal, if we can use that word. But
yeah.
do you find it surreal? Bits of Bundesliga last week. The Premier League will eventually, we think, be back behind closed doors. It's bizarre from a football point of view. I mean, the staying football without fans is nothing, but it appears that without fans is the only way to go for the time being.
I know it's a very tricky situation. Like I'm sure there's probably no right or wrong answer because clubs have to survive, which I get, and the clubs at the top have a lot more to lose financially than I suppose we do. But from watching the games, me personally, it's not something that I get overly enthusiastic about. I suppose there's a lot of us players that we do kind of live off that energy of kind of going out with the atmosphere on a Saturday. And I can't speak from experience because I've never had to play in front of an empty stadium, but I can't imagine that you get anywhere close to the same kind of buzz or energy. But as you said, it's kind of dealing with this scenario being dealt with, and I suppose if we have to do it until maybe next December or something, until maybe a vaccine can be brought in and it's safe for fans to come back, then maybe that is, or else it's reduced capacity, which has been, I know, spoken about for the lower leagues. Maybe that could be an option going forward. But yeah, hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later because it'll be kind of better for everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll stop, better save this now before the complete waste. Cool. Thanks a million, buddy. Cheers for
No
that.
worries, Tom.
All right. Enjoy your Bundesliga behind closed doors.
I will do. I'll speak to you soon.
All right. Talk to you. Thanks for that.
All
Bye.
right. No worries. Bye bye.